So if you follow me on Instagram at Ceddy Nash, or if you don't, you should do that right now. Some paperwork dropped last night, and you just got a little taste, a little snippet. Well, here's the whole entire thing. If you can, hit that like button right now. Let's get it cracking. So here we are to go. United States District Court, Central District of California, United States versus Durk Banks. Here's what we're here for, right? Defendant Durk Banks replied in support of his motion to dismiss for vagueness or an alternative for a bill of particulars. Basically saying like this: if you ain't gonna give me this, at least give me this. Ladies, y'all know how to do this better than men do. Fellas, when she say, hey, can you do this one thing right here? And then she turn around and ask you to do something else that seems smaller. She really wanted you to do the smaller thing. My bad, ladies. My bad. I didn't mean to spoil that. I'm finna get some emails. Defendant Durk Banks, through his attorneys Drew Filling, Mercer Goldberg, Jonathan M. Brayman, and Christy O'Connell, hereby files this reply in support of his motion to dismiss the indictment for vagueness or any alternative for a bill of particulars. Respectfully submitted. So y'all see, this is his lawyers basically doing whatever they doing. The second superseding indictment, referred to here as the indictment. All right, this is this is language for y'all to understand. You ever been driving and it's too damn cloudy, there's so much fog, you like, bro, I need to pull over and reassess this whole entire situation? That's essentially what Drew Filling and them are doing. They said, hey, bro, we don't actually think y'all got anything here. We think y'all operating under vagueness, which means clearly not seen. Don't worry, it gets real interesting, because when I tell you this is the reason why Drew is the billion-dollar lawyer, you're going to factually understand why the hell it is, or this is just a weak-ass case. It's one of the two. Either y'all going to say Drew is that man, or the feds is playing a terrible, shitty game. Rolling introduction. The government's opposition was its opportunity to highlight specifics, either in the indictment itself or in the discovery, that clarifies its basic theory with respect to two things, and two things only. One, the alleged bounty, and two, the pervasive yet vague at the direction of accusations. But it fails to do so. Instead, the opposition recites at great length details in the indictment that are relevant to the instant motion. It then states in conclusory fashion that the discovery fills in any missing pieces on essential elements without explaining how or laying a record for the court to decide whether that it is true. The court should see through this smokescreen and decline to blindly take the government's word that the discovery puts Mr. Banks on constitutionally sufficient notice. Without the court's intervention, the vague indictment becomes a blank check that the government has written itself, allowing Mr. Banks' prosecution on facts that were not presented to the grand jury, that would take him by surprise at trial, and that are continually shifting as government cooperators change their stories. Argument. The indictment's detailed treatment of other subject matters does not make up for its vagueness on the bounty and at the direction of allegations. At the outset, it is important to clarify what Mr. Banks is and is not arguing in his motion. In his motion, Mr. Banks takes issue with only two deficiencies in the indictment. The first is that the indictment fails to allege the essential facts with reasonable particularity of of time, place, and circumstances related to the alleged bounty that is an element of the murder for hire charge. See United States versus Christian, 19 U.S. 542, 558, 1875. They went all the way back to the damn Civil War era. So there's always these phrases, right? The who, what, when, where, why. Who, what, when, where, why. They're asking how. How in the hell y'all gonna say this, bruh? How are you guys going to basically say all of this stuff happened, but then leave us in the blind? And they're not gonna sit up here and say overexpose yourself. They say, hey, bruh, how in the hell are y'all even saying this now? Now we gotta ask these questions because, and I told y'all, the fact that the feds are going so damn hard, so hard for a song that essentially was written 7 months before, that even if you applied it, doesn't make sense. Even if you applied it, makes zero effing sense. I just want y'all to understand this. If that bounty allegedly was real, right, and they stalked and they did all this and did all that, where's the money? Second is that it fails to allege the essential facts about the directions that Mr. Banks is alleged to have given in furtherance of counts 3 through 5, directions that are his only alleged link to crimes carried out by others in his absence. Mr. Banks argues vagueness on these two topics only. Mr. Banks does not argue that the indictment is fatally vague in any other way. For example, with respect to motive for TB's murder, the date, time, circumstances of the stalking, gun possession, or the murder of SR. What facility in interstate commerce was used? What? Wow. Or the overt acts necessary to support a conspiracy charge. Oh, wow. Oh, shit. Yet the government wants the court to find that in the inclusion of details on these other matters renders the indictment valid across the board. Its opposition's introduction cites the indictment's robust allegations about the motive for the murder. Details about how the defendant stalked the murder victim's vehicle for hours leading up to the killing, including photographs and details about each defendant's role in the murder plot. No mention of the robustness of the bounty or at the direction of allegations. Government's op at 1. Over the next 4 pages, it regurgitates all of the indictment's allegations, including those that do not matter here, in great detail. ID at 1 through 4, of course. The government can cite to no robust allegation, let alone a bare bones time, place, or circumstance about the bounty offer/acceptance, or the direction that Mr. Banks is alleged to have given to his purported co-conspirators. The reason for that omission is simple. The indictment contains none. Yo, he talking shit. He said y'all lying. The government then goes on to argue that these details about matters other than the bounty and at the direction of allegations are all that are necessary to pass constitutional muster here. SSI includes the elements of the offenses, the date and place of the murder, the motive, the participants, and the actions they take leading up to and including the murder. There is no missing factual allegation that precludes the finding of criminality. Gov op at 8. And later, it argues that it is enough that SS1 names with particularity the date and place of the murder, the participants and motive, and 27 overt acts describing the actions leading up to the murder as well as the murder itself. ID at 10. The indictment can contain 1,000 alleged overt acts, but if it's missing any essential facts giving rise to the charges, it fails nonetheless. Just like it names the date and place of the murder, it should name the date and place of the bounty offer. Yo, what? Drew cooking this shit. The government's focus on non-pertinent details is a distraction. The presence of these details does not make up for the indictment's failure to provide reasonable particularity of time, place, and circumstances. Where it matters, on the alleged bounty offer that is an essential element, of the murder for hire charges, and on the directions that are the only alleged link between Mr. Banks and other charged crimes. As to those two critical subject matters, the indictment is void of reasonable particularity of time, place, and circumstances. So where's the specific facts? Can we get to the specificity and everything? Because it's basically saying you're distracting the court with irrelevant information. Like, y'all know when y'all get ready to punch somebody, hey, here it comes, bow. Didn't even see that coming, did you? It's like a magic trick. So basically what they're saying is, yeah. Can we get more details? Is that possible? Can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, bro. I just need a little bit more. So, nah, man. They're saying this is too broad. It's like the YNW Melly trial when they were like, oh, we went and we searched here, and here, and we will find it eventually. And they're like, yeah, except, bro, you went way back, way too far. Your scope should be here and here. They're basically saying, why not just put the specifics? Why not specify it? Why isn't this that basically ties Durk to the murder? Why not? Just curious, man. So what's going to link Durk to it? Can y'all give us that? Mr. Banks thinks only what he is entitled to under the law. The government's central theories of prosecution. Even the government has to admit a defendant is entitled to know the time, place, and circumstances of a transaction giving rise to the charge. CEG Government Op at 13 in 5 cited United States versus Minetti 323 F sub 683 696 D Del 1971. But the government nonetheless argues that the indictment here suffices because the information the defendant requests, the specific language defendant used in ordering a bounty and directing his co-conspirators, are not operative or central facts to the case. Gov up at 15. See also ID at 10 in for the information sought by defendant. The words he used in offering a reward to killers of his rival or in giving directions to others are not elements of the offense. ID at 15. The information defendant seeks is merely the details of acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. A bounty offer is, however, a necessary transaction giving rise to a murder for hire charge. In a prosecution under 18 U.S.C. 1958, the receipt of or promise/agreement to pay something of pecuniary value as consideration for murder is an essential element of the offense. At the intent to pay someone to commit murder, it is a critical element as well. See E.g. United States versus Wicklund, 11-4 F 3D 151 154 10th Circuit 1997. And because Mr. Banks did not himself stalk anybody, shoot anybody, or possess a gun in furtherance of that stalking, that means in manner of his alleged remote participation, i.e. the directions he allegedly gave to others, are essential to the case against him on counts 3, 4, and 5. Those directions are, in fact, the only transactions giving rise to those charges as it relates to Mr. Banks. Mr. Banks is entitled to know the government's essential theory, the who, what, where, when, and how. On these essential points, the government obscures things when it argues that the words used themselves are not essential elements of the offense, considering a charge that we more commonly see in federal court, wire fraud. Imagine an indictment that alleges the following. At some point between November 2020 and August of 2022, the defendant made material misrepresentations about investment opportunities to Wilson and others in order to cause them to part with certain valuable possessions and/or money. It would be beyond reasonable dispute that this language fails to put the defendant on notice of the charges against him. It does not enable him to prepare his defense to assert, that he never made the statements at issue, that they were not false, that they were not material, or that they were not designed to cause victims to part with money or property. Among many other potential defenses, it does not protect against double jeopardy. In the subsequent prosecution, the government could argue that these other statements form the basis for the new wire fraud charge. What is more, it obliterates the important function of the grand jury and permits the government to shift its theory as the case progresses. CEG United States versus Nance 5-3 F2D 699-701 through 02 DC served 1976. Reversed the fraud conviction where indictment failed to specify the alleged false representations because it gave the government a free hand to assert the vital part of the indictment without reference to the grand jury. United States versus Curtis 506 F2D 985 990 through 92 10th Circuit 1974. Reversing fraud convictions where the indictment failed to specify the alleging false representations. So since Durk didn't slide, can y'all point it out? Like, can y'all point out his directions? Like, can y'all actually tell us, like, bro, what did he do exactly? Y'all keep saying this shit like we're gonna produce coded language. Yeah, but bro, what is that coded language? Because y'all know everybody's slang is different, right? Geechee, Chicago, means you swing for ding-a-ling. Geechee, California, mean that you bougie as hell, that you paid, but you a little, you know what I'm saying? You doing a little too much, bro. You think you got too much dip on your chip. You overly stunting. Not the same thing. Geechee don't mean gay in California, but it means gay in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? So, different slangs, different things, and all of this shit. And I had a theory, too, of why it wasn't done in California. Then I deep dove, so I'll tell you in the next slide. But a bounty offer is as essential to a murder for hire charge as a material misrepresentation is to a wire fraud charge. And where Mr. Banks' alleged directions to his alleged co-conspirators are the only thing tying him to counts 3 through 5, the circumstances of those directions are essential to his prosecution as well. To be clear, Mr. Banks is not requesting the details of the evidence the government will present at trial, i.e. the specific documents or the specifics documents, text messages, emails, cell site location information, or recordings the government will introduce, or the names of the government witnesses who will testify in support of the government's theory of the case. See Lyin versus United States, 314 F2D 881 882, Ninth Circuit, 1963. Date/time and location of court transaction properly the subject of a bill of particulars, but not the names of government witnesses who would testify about those transactions. Mr. Banks is only requesting the government's basic theory, without which he cannot adequately prepare for trial. By way of example, let's consider Mr. Banks' request for the particulars of the coded language he is alleged to have used to offer the bounty for TB's murder. The issue of so-called coded language will loom large at this trial, with the government arguing that the jury should assign certain meanings to factually ambiguous language, and the defense contests those interpretations. Let's imagine that Mr. Banks is kept in the dark before trial about what coded language he allegedly used to offer the bounty. Then at trial, the following hypothetical is completely fictitious. A government witness testifies that Mr. Banks told him the eagle has landed. And in certain neighborhoods of Chicago, the eagle has landed means that the speaker is offering a bounty for murder. Having heard these words and this interpretation for the first time at trial, the defense would be unprepared to effectively cross-examine the witness about the meaning of those words. The defense will have done no research, conducted no investigation, lined up no witness to rebut that interpretation. That is the definition of trial by surprise. And it is a primary danger posed by a vague indictment. It's United States versus Handler. I don't know how to say that. So, yeah. 498 F2D 352 356 N1 Second Circuit 1974. A danger of a vague indictment is that it does not permit a defendant to prepare an adequate defense or to address himself to the relevant questions of fact and law. United States versus Russell, 369 U.S. 749, 766 through 67, 1962. United States versus Cecil, 607. F2D, 1294, 1296, 1979. United States versus Ayers, 924 FD, 1468, 1483. Ninth Circuit, 1991. The same goes for the other information Mr. Banks requests in a bill of particulars, including the date and location of the alleged bounty offer. The indictment also lists no location of the alleged offer, and it alleged a nearly 2-year time frame in which the bounty offer could have occurred. If the defense hears for the first time at trial that the bounty offer was conveyed, for example, in a coffee shop in Chicago, January 5th, 2021, it will be scrambling to figure out whether Mr. Banks was even in Chicago in January of 2021. There may be a witness who would have testified that Mr. Banks was actually in Atlanta at that time, but the defense will have been deprived of that opportunity to locate and call that witness. The Sixth Amendment guarantees Mr. Banks and all persons charged with crimes more notice than that. So yeah, y'all get to run around and change y'all theory, change y'all story all the time. First it was here, first it was there, first he said this, first he said that. Nah, buddy. No. You don't get to do that. Sorry, you don't. If y'all wondering, I still got to keep my notes because this shit is real difficult to do. So basically, they're saying that the actions of Durk basically is what exactly? Because y'all keep on saying he did this, he did that, but at the end of the day, you don't have a time, you don't have a place, you don't have circumstances required to justify a valid murder for hire charge. They're saying, bro, if he was going to do this, where the hell did it take place? Where exactly? Now, I got a theory on how the feds are going to try to spin it to win it, but yeah, bro, what the you know what I'm saying? Come on now. Bald assertions that the discovery fills in the blanks are not enough. The government asks the court to find that the discovery it has produced eliminates all doubt that the defendants are able to understand the theory of the government's case. Gov. Op. at 13. Yet it lays no record that would allow for such a finding. Contra United States versus Geese, 597 F2D, 1170, 1180, 9th Circuit, 1979. Holding that discovery obviated any need for bill of particulars based on the record of the discovery's contents, including grand jury transcripts and memoranda revealing the government's theory. It only alleged that the discovery is voluminous, that with each production, the government also provided a detailed index listing the discovery being produced ID at 4 and that additional details have been provided in discovery, ID F15N and 6. If that doubt-eliminating discovery existed, the government would certainly have cited to it in its opposition. Yet it does not. Indeed, nowhere does the discovery set forth anything resembling a fixed or coherent theory of the time, place, and circumstances of the bounty allegations or at the direction of allegations. On the contrary, the discovery reveals the government witness who are constantly changing their stories. PW1, for example, has asserted that there was no bounty at all, that he did not agree to murder TB for monetary gain, and that he did so under duress. But as one might expect in a murder for hire prosecution predicated on the existence of a bounty, he rises to meet the occasion. In one government proffer session, PW1 recounts how Mr. Wilson allegedly stayed behind in Los Angeles after the other participants flew out in order to collect the bounty money for distribution. PW1's story is, however, flatly contradicted by the objective evidence. The government's realization that PW1 lied here is likely why, between the first superseding indictment and the second superseding indictment, it deleted language alleging that Mr. Wilson paid out the bounty after SR's homicide. See docket number 27, page 6 at 9. When the government's witnesses are constantly changing their stories about crucial facts as the discovery catalogs here, Mr. Banks' defense must take aim at a moving target. That is fundamentally unfair. So they like, yo, bro, hey, your boy, he keep on changing the story like god dang babies changing diapers. First you said it was this, then you said it was that. And that's why y'all hit us with the first superseding indictment, and then y'all dropped the actual money bounty part of that. Y'all remember in the first one, and we pointed this out, we like, hold on, cuz this is a whole new indictment. This ain't even the same thing. But this is not the same thing. That's like me saying, you know what, baby? Yeah, you cheated on me. You went and you slept with this dude. And Shawty like, no, I didn't. And then I come back and I say, well, you actually didn't sleep with him, but you were texting about sleeping with him, which is just as good on my end. So yeah, there's that. Like, that's what the feds just basically did. And I told y'all, like, bro, the feds is losing this case. Drew's putting BTA, and it might be Melissa Goldberg that's putting in a lot of work. Like, we know a lot, but this is like Brian Still and Keith Adams right now. Y'all know Brian Still do his thing for sure. A little long-winded, but when he gets to his point, it's like, all right, I'm going to give you guys, Brian Still, all right, I'm going to give you guys A, B, C, and D. And it's going to lead to E, F, G. So A, blah, 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 B, blah, 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 and right, and it gets down and you go to E and F, just like, and this is why this, and you're like, oh shit, oh, I get it. Keith Adams just come in and, you right there, you know it's bullshit right here, right? You wrote that in 2 seconds? Yeah, normally it takes 5 minutes. So that's a lie. Okay. All right. And y'all know how Keith do that shit. But anyways, let's get to this last part right here. This court should fashion a remedy that moors the government to its grand jury presentation. The government should be clear with Mr. Banks and with the court about its theory of prosecution, which iteration of its witnesses' ever-changing stories will it stand behind the trial. Importantly, the government is not free to simply pick its favorite version. If the government told the grand jury, again, this scenario is completely fictitious, that Mr. Banks' coded bounty offer was the statement the Eagle has landed, made in Chicago, or in a Chicago coffee shop in January of 2021, the grand jury indicted Mr. Banks based on that theory, then the government may not switch it up simply because its witnesses' stories become more convincing over time. See Nance 533 F2D at 701. Reversing conviction, where absent any allegation whatsoever in the indictment as to what the false pretenses were, the United States attorney would have a free hand to insert a vital part of the indictment without reference to the grand jury. The law does not vest him with such authority. Cecil 608 F2D at 1297. Prohibition against vague indictments serves to ensure that the defendants are prosecuted on facts presented to the grand jury. Russell 369 U.S. at 770 United States versus Dubois 186 F3D 1177, 1179 through 80 Ninth Circuit 1999 United States versus Keith 605 F2D 462, 464 Ninth Circuit 1979. Under the case law, When an indictment is vague as this one, it is deflective and must be dismissed, in the words of the Ninth Circuit. If a bill of particulars were allowed to save an insufficient indictment, the role of the grand jury as intervener would be circumvented, rather than the assurance that a body of fellow citizens had assessed the facts and determined that an individual should face prosecution. The prosecutor would be in a position to second guess what actually happened within the grand jury and fill in the gaps with what he assumed transpired. The protection of a significant check on the power of the courts and prosecutors would thus be lost. For similar reasons, open file discovery cannot cure an invalid indictment. Cecil 608 F2D at 1296 Russell 369 US at 770 through 71. It is settled rule that a bill of particulars cannot save an invalid indictment. If the court does, in lieu of dismissal, order a bill of particulars, it should take steps to ensure that the bill of particulars reflect the essential facts that form the basis for the grand jury's decision to indict. Namely, the court should conduct an in-camera review of the grand jury transcripts to ensure the government's bill of particulars reflects them faithfully, both in its bill of particulars and down the road at the trial. The government is not permitted to prosecute Mr. Banks on allegations other than those presented to and approved of by the grand jury. The Constitution does not permit the government or its cooperators eager to say what they must to try and save their own skins to fill in the gaps. Conclusion. For the reasons set forth in Mr. Banks' motive and above, Defendant Durk Banks respectfully requests that the court dismiss the indictment against him as unconstitutionally vague, and, in the alternative, the court should order the government to produce their requested bill of particulars, comparing it with the grand jury transcripts in camera in order to ensure that the government does not impermissibly shift its theory of prosecution. So the defense more than likely is going to say, hey, a grand jury already found probable cause. Bro, the shit's going to come out anyways during trial. And basically that we already gave you enough info. You're good with what you got. That's what they gonna say. They gonna write it out, basically played as that. Hey, bro, jury already found probable cause. You got enough info. And basically, shit, when the trial rolls on, that's what it's gonna be. So there was this theory that I had, and I was like, bruh, why didn't California just do this? But it's like, once it hits interstate, then basically that's what it is. Meaning, once you hit them roads, once he came in on the plane, once all of this shit already happened, that was it. That was enough already. So there's that. But to summarize it all, basically, they're saying, meaning Drew and his team is saying, bro, you gonna tell us we got homework, but you ain't gonna tell us the subject? You gonna test this, but you ain't gonna tell us what you gonna test this on? Do I think they get some relief and get some information? Yeah, because it's really not the dismissal that they're looking for. It sounds good. It looks good. It definitely reads well. But at the end of the day, nah. The feds ain't for to tag us along and bring all this shit. The feds are 100% convinced that once a cop gets on there and gets to explaining and all of this stuff, that's what's going to happen. Meaning he's going to break it down. He's going to show examples and all this crap. Because one thing that exists, because there's a big file that just dropped today. We're going to get that done. We're going to drop that at about 9:15 East Coast time, 6:15 West Coast time. Where basically, bruh, the shit that you thought you knew, you don't know. Meaning Durk and them got some crazy that's about to drop. It's already out there, so there's gonna be other bloggers that cover it, but they don't do it as well as I do. But yeah, bro, this shit right here, as far as the feds go, this right here is what they didn't want, because what they're essentially saying is, y'all play these games, we gonna play these games. To me, if I'm Drew Finland, I'm reaching out to certain people, like I'm reaching out to certain individuals who are Team Durk, and I'm telling them, hey, bro, make sure that you guys are keeping the faith alive and just yelling, Durk is innocent, Durk is, you know what I'm saying, all of this shit, because it's now going to depend on how the feds try to swindle and move and maneuver that shit. There are a ton of songs that they could have played. There are. But that one in particular, the go, that shit, like, bro, there's no way in this world that you could say, you know, 7 months before this stuff came out, that this is real. And then for somebody that wasn't even, and this is where the feds are so dumb. They're going to lose the lyric shit in court because some dumbass decided to post Lil Pop, to post Quando Rondo screaming, no, right? Natural reaction. I'm making fun of him or nothing like that. They put that as an edit on there, and the feds said, oh, shit, we got him. We got that one. Really? No, you don't. But it is what it is. Y'all, let me know your thoughts on this one. Subscribe, turn on that bell, stay notified, and share to keep your people aware. Thank y'all for subscribing, man. If you want to help us out, it'd be gladly appreciated by hitting the like button and commenting your thoughts. And by you doing that and hitting that subscribe button, you're automatically entered to win one of these the more you comment on every single video. Click right here and see how David ass just got busted, but he didn't get busted. Sad shit as far as victims go today. Click right here, or click right here for the playlist, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.